How's it going, YouTube? This is Mike back for another another video in the series of a movie for each year of my life. And this is going to be a very short video. I'm not going to go on for 20 minutes like I did the last time, I promise. Now we're up to the year 1960, and this is another film about teenagers in high school. It's called Because They're Young. Okay, Because They're Young, and stars Dick Clark, none other than Dick Clark in the very first movie role of his life, and he's pretty good actually. He plays a high school teacher who has just come to a new school and starts getting involved not only with the beautiful school secretary played by actress Victoria Shaw, but he also gets involved in the lives of some of his students, especially the ones who are having a lot of trouble. And that causes repercussions and a lot of drama, a lot of violence. And it's actually a very good film. It's done with very serious intent. It not only shows the actions between the high school students, but also the troubled relationships they have with their parents. So once again, like some of the other films that I've talked about, Rebel Without a Cause, Blackboard Jungle, a lot of these kids, their unhappiness in life is caused by their bad relationships with their parents. So it's a good film, and I remember this. I was not old enough to go see this in 1960, but I did see it later on television. Probably started showing on TV back in the late 60s and all through the 1970s. Based on a novel by an author named John Ferris. The novel is called Harrison High, which is the name of the high school in the film as well. Came out in 1959, and it was a very notorious book for its time. It very much an adult book about high school kids, and it had a lot of sex, a lot of violence, a lot of deep psychological stuff going on in the minds of the kids who were troubled. And I remember reading that book when I was in high school, about 1965. The older kids were still passing it around, and of course, if you see the older kids reading something, you want to read it yourself. So I managed to go to a bookstore and get a copy. It's not one of those books you wanted your parents to know that you were reading, but I remember some of the details about the book, and it was pretty hot stuff. I liked it. And to show you how dumb I can be, I saw this movie on TV maybe 3 or 4 times, probably in the late 60s, early 70s, without realizing that it was an adaptation of Harrison High. I just didn't pick up on it because they had changed so much of it. Even though a couple of the characters in the film had the same names that they had in the book, it finally clicked in my head, and I saw the name Harrison High written on the facade of the high school, but I just didn't pick up on it because they really did soften the novel quite a bit. I guess they had no choice. But still a very serious film. And one thing that's good about it is the fact that it has several young actors who were pretty popular at the time for being in teenage type roles, and 2 of them were actually teenagers. And one was actress Tuesday Weld, who was about 16 or 17 at the time, and she is such a good actress. Always was just top notch in everything that she did, and she, among all the teenage actors of the time, the 60s and all that, I think she kind of stands up in a higher place. Another young actress who was only about 16 was Roberta Shore, and we also had in the film an actor named Michael Callan who played the good-looking juvenile delinquent, and he was very good at it. There was another young actor named Warren Berlinger who was he played the good guy. He was always playing the good guy. He had been typecast in teenage roles since 1956 when he made a film called Teenage Rebel. So he was still playing teenagers and kind of continued in that for several years. Never became a really big star. It also features a young actor named Doug McClure, who was kind of the blonde matinee idol type. He later on became very famous in a TV series called The Virginian, and he died rather young at the age of 59. But the thing about Doug McClure, he never seemed to age. He always looked like he was a high school football player. It was pretty cool to see him when he was that young. So another good thing about the film, it features rock and roll, which is pretty much required for a film about teenagers in the 1960s. And when the film opened and the kids were all going into school on the very first day, it played a popular song by Bobby Rydell on the soundtrack. The song is called Swingin' School. If you happen to remember, that was a big hit back in 1960. And later on in the film, they have a sequence about the big high school dance, right? And they have, of course, they have a band up there playing rock and roll. Kids are all dancing, and they have two guest stars, and one of them is Jimmy Darren, who was a pretty popular teenage actor, and well, he wasn't really a teenager by then, but he was an actor in teenage type films, and also a very good singer, kind of a Frank Sinatra type singer, very good voice. He sang the title song "Because They're Young." He sang it in a very slow, very romantic style, and it's quite beautiful. And the other performer was a group called Dwayne Eddy and the Rebels. Dwayne Eddy was a guitar, well, he is a guitar player who they only played instrumentals. I don't think they ever had anybody sing. Dwayne Eddy never sang, as far as I knew, but he played this kind of twangy guitar and did a rock and roll song, the name of which escapes me now. Now it's interesting because James Darren released that song "Because They're Young" as a single record, and it didn't really do anything. But later on, Dwayne Eddy and the Rebels released an instrumental version of "Because They're Young" with an orchestra of strings accompanying their guitar music, and it was a huge hit. It was the biggest hit of Dwayne Eddy's career. I think it reached number 5 on the charts in 1960. So it was a very, very popular song. So I guess that's really all I wanted to say about this. If you have any nostalgia about this era or any curiosity about it, this is a good example of what was depicting teenage life in 1960 with the clothes and the hairstyles and all their teenage angst and all that nonsense. And it's a pretty good flick. So I would recommend that you give a look to "Because They're Young." This is a bootleg, by the way. I got this at a flea market. It's a thin pack. This is a bootleg of a bootleg. Somebody copied from a disc that was put out by the website thevideobeat.com, which puts out a lot of these films that they record either off of old VHS tapes and some off television, things that are so obscure that you can't get them any other way. So if that's the only way I can get a film like this, I'm quite happy. So, all right, that's it. "Because They're Young," and I'm done. I got that in under 20 minutes. Thank you.